Hello and welcome. You're watching MF Corner. I'm Sumaira Abdi. The juggernaut of passive funds in India continues in full force. Month after month, quarter after quarter, the assets continue to pile up. At a little over 6 lakh crores of the nearly 40 lakh crore mutual fund industry in India, it today accounts for about 15% of all the assets under management. But consider the growth. This share has almost doubled in just the last 1 year, when passives formed a little over 8% of the market. And with the strict reclassification of active funds by SEBI in 2018, it is only the passive space now, and within it specifically the ETF basket, where there is any scope for innovation left. So why is thematic innovation important? As an investor, is there an edge that it can give you? How have global investors reacted to this? Joining me today are Louis Baruga, CEO of GlobalX, and Swaroop Mohanty, CEO of Mirae Asset Investment Managers India. GlobalX is a part of the Mirae Asset Financial Group, one of their ETF arms, their largest ETF arm, if I'm to say, with presence all over the world and currently managing assets of $545 billion as of June end. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining in. And Louis, especially to you for coming down to India and for speaking to us. So, I was going through your website and I saw your tagline which said beyond ordinary ETFs. But, in India, ETFs are not yet ordinary, right? I mean, Swaroop will tell you that we're still trying to popularize it, and therefore your opinion becomes more important. So wanted to understand first up that, what is the global setup for ETFs, particularly thematic ETFs, looking like now? How has the growth been? What are the trends which are shaping up now? And what's doing well?
Great question, and thank you so much for having me. It's a true pleasure to be here with you today. So we see two main global trends going on right now. One is obviously the growth of the ETF industry. As you may know, in 2021, we crossed over $10 trillion in assets globally. And the other trend that we see is the growth in thematic investing. Just in the US, 5 years ago, there were only like $5 billion tracking thematic ETFs. That number today is $120 billion. So that growth in the ETF industry, which we expect that it's going to continue to increase over the coming years, and the growth in thematic investing, two very powerful trends. More specifically, some of the trends in which we are very interested in right now are cybersecurity and electric vehicles. Cybersecurity, I think, is obvious, right? More devices connected to the internet, great, but more points of vulnerability. Even some of the geopolitical factors that we are dealing with right now, Russia and Ukraine, even China and the US, continue to emphasize the need for more cybersecurity. And if you just look at the projections, our numbers indicate that in the next 5 years, there should be around $1.75 trillion in global cybersecurity spending. So the numbers are very, very significant. And when it comes to electric vehicles, we just see many catalysts for further adoption. So you have regulatory support, the cost of electric batteries continues to go down, even the charging network and infrastructure just continues to improve. So we think these are all factors that will drive adoption of electric vehicles even further. And quite frankly, it's still very early stages. Look at electric car sales in 2021 double, but they're still only 9% of total car sales. So we do think the trend for ETFs, thematic investing, and specifically cybersecurity and electric vehicles are very significant.
But thematic investing is a very niche market, right? Why are you focused mostly on themes? Is it the market for the regular ETF saturated? What is the thought behind this emphasis on thematic investing?
Great question. So innovation is just part of the DNA of GlobalX. Our company was founded in 2008 by two entrepreneurs in New York, and it was very difficult to compete with the largest asset managers in the world. As you know, it's a very competitive space. So since the very beginning, the DNA of GlobalX has been around innovation. And that's why we are widely considered the leaders in thematic investing. We launched the very first thematic ETF in the US, our GlobalX Lithium and Battery Technology, back in 2010. We now offer 36 thematic ETF strategies in the US, more than any other ETF issuer, and we manage over $20 billion in assets just in thematic ETFs. But what is the rationale behind that? It's very simple. We have a high degree of conviction that the traditional way in which investors invest, looking at historical data to predict future returns, is not enough. The world is changing at a pace that we have never seen at any point in history before. That's why we think investing with an eye into the future is particularly important in today's environment. And that's why I think thematic investing is a very powerful tool for our clients' portfolios.
Okay, but and I'm speaking from the perspective of the Indian market, is that we have in normal circumstances a flood of NFOs, right? New fund offers. And there is this feeling that, there is a lot of innovation happening for the sake of innovation, maybe to launch new funds, because this is where there is space available. So is there a lot of innovation happening just for the sake of innovation? I mean, what has been the success of the new themes that you have launched?
I honestly think it's just because innovation is just happening at the fastest pace that we have seen in history. Why? I think it's access to the internet, cell phones. I think normal people just have access to much more information than they ever did before in any point of history. So I don't think it's innovation for the sake of innovation. Is that I truly believe innovation is happening everywhere and faster than ever before. So that's a key element of why I think it's still a very relevant part of clients' portfolios. And then the other aspect when it comes to the success rate, well, personally, from a product development standpoint, we take a very disciplined, data-driven approach to thematic investing and to bringing new innovative ETFs to market. We look at conviction, investability, and time horizon. So we look at companies and areas of the economy where we have a high degree of conviction. So we look at target addressable market, the maturity of the technology, the regulatory framework. Then we look at whether or not there are enough companies that we can actually invest effectively in that particular theme. And then we're only interested in those themes that have a long-term scope in nature. So we are not interested in something that's going to be popular for 2 or 3 years. We're literally looking for like disruptive shifts in the economy that will have an impact over decades. And in terms of the track record, even I think like a year ago, we launched our Global X blockchain ETF and our Global X hydrogen ETF. I think it was roughly a year ago, July of 2021. And we've already raised over $100 million in those strategies. And that's in the context of a very volatile market environment. So we do think there continues to be appetite for thematic ETFs, and innovation is just happening very, very fast.
Yeah, and in the one of the busiest markets in the world also, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but Swaroop, how ripe is the Indian market to accept these kind of themes? I know you've had success with some of the thematic ETFs that you have launched already, but what is the scope for so many new themes to come in?
Sumaira, first of all, thank you for having Luis and me together. It's so special to be sitting here with Luis in front of you. But yeah, what Luis said is very important, that, when you look at thematic investing, it's about the future. And there's this saying that, you invest in the future, in your future by investing in the future. And that's what thematic investing is. And when you look at traditional investing in India, and that happens across the world, one graduates over a period of time, that you typically look at past returns to invest in your future strategies. But that's a complete deviation in thematic investing. There's no past data, actually. Look at their lithium 8 years ago. He's talking about blockchain, he's talking about hydrogen. There are things which will not come easily to India. But at the underlying, what is happening is the demography is changing. The new investor is a very different investor, connected on the phone to data, to information, like as on yesterday. I'll give you a small example. Like we launched BAF, and Luis, BAF is probably the hottest category in India. We got 26,000 applications. We did Luis's EV and AI, and we got around 13,000 applications. So when you look at these two numbers from 26 to 13, from the perspective of your question, it is beginning to happen. And when you look at the younger lot coming in, and that will come in very quickly. We are seeing that in the numbers of penetration that we've seen in the last 1 year of the industry. We're adding 1 crore folios in the last 1 year over a base of 2 crores, approximately is 50% growth in 1 year. And bulk of that will be the young of India. We see that change happening far quicker than what we think. Yes, traditionally, it's been a large cap, mid cap, morely the market cap investing. But when we launched our consumption 9 years ago, people made the same questions. Today, when you look at the broad themes of India, they played out, whether consumption, pharma, or healthcare, or you look at financials, they played out. But these futuristic mega trends is something which is at a threshold of breakaway. And I'm looking forward to working together because they are the leaders in bringing these mega trends into the world. And then once we introduce that, and yes, it will need some familiarity from the underlying investor. But once they catch on, the key is the dissemination of information from them to us, which is not very late or it's absolutely instant. The Indian market is fairly educated to take it forward, is our view.
Yeah, absolutely. Because see, right now the investor who is already aware of the themes and coming to you for an investment, I can imagine that that person is a willing investor. The problem is in reaching people who may not be aware, you know, because consumption, financials, the other themes which you mentioned are fairly well understood. But to reach the investor who is not aware, to make them aware of these themes, isn't that a big challenge for you?
Sumaira, I've been watching your show, right? And then when you look at the questions which come to your show from the hinterland of India, they no longer come as asking you from which is your best fund or whatever. They come very structured. Here's my goal. Here's my investment. What do I want? Earlier, I used to think whether these were doctored questions, very honestly, you know, but that's not so. So I'm a big fan of respecting the young Indians now. And not only young Indians, the investors of India. And please mark my words, this is not just India, across the world. COVID has changed the investing habits of everybody across the world. When you are, you know, sort of shifted to a near-death sort of situation, there is a flight to safety, and hence investments come to the fore. And we've seen that happening to India. There are enough people now studying what is happening and giving investing a far deeper thought than what used to happen just 2 years ago. So I am not ready to accept the fact that I need to reach out. We are reaching a position where they are doing their own thoughts, and the advisory and the distribution climate has also changed dramatically. So see, there's a simple rule to this business. What is right for the investor is right for us. Right, and if these are the right trends globally, sooner or later, please don't underestimate the Indian brain on tracking it down.
Absolutely. I second that. So we're going to take a very quick break, but I have lots more to ask my two experts, so we'll be right back. Stay with us.